Is it just me, or are there so many mergers, consolidations, buyouts, IPOs? Oh my, there's just so many things to think about as you consider maybe what growth and success look like for you today. And there probably seems to be a need to right size and normalize how you stay competitive and strive towards success, but at the same time, making sure that everyone involved is on the same page. You know, it really is possible to be a financially driven person and also to find joy and improve your happiness quotient, that's what I call it, in your life. And I think for too long, we've really considered it to be an either or, where one must be strong and the other must be weak. And yet, when I look at the very best, those who are meeting the level of success that you may desire, strive towards, or dream of, I really do see how they're able to do both. And these are the suggestions that I'm making to you on a regular basis. So when I think about some real life examples about how you can kind of implement desire for success and be financially driven while also kind of keeping that close mom and pop kind of caring vibe that you've probably created in your professional life, I think it's important to look at some best practices. You know, sometimes the best practices are not because the company made this work in the long term, but because the principle makes sense for you to kind of custom curate it for your business. So one example is when large publicly traded companies desire that their staff and team members all know the share value, meaning because that's such an important part of the financial success of the business well above the team, that they coach and correct and honestly put forth a great deal of strategy around the share price. And so everyone in the business, from those cleaning the floors to the managers to the people they take care of and everyone above them, all are on the same page about what the share price is and what that means for the company. I think that's a great way, even if you're not in a publicly traded company, even if you're not super focused on something like an IPO, where you can implement some KPIs that everyone in your business should know in order to be successful and in order to rise together. Meaning it's more team driven than it is one person, likely you, the owner, who's looking to that financial success, but quiet or meek when it comes to your team kind of supporting that. And I actually believe this is true on the personal side. So whether it's, you know, having those difficult conversations about budget and what you spend on and what you find important as a family so that you can have some monetary goals that you're not just meeting, but you're exceeding. I think that's incredibly important and a great way for you to build a great life outside of work as well. The thing I also think about is principles around how you view competition. You know, it's really easy to look at competition, whether it's the Joneses around the corner with the bigger house and the nicer car, or if it's the business that's 5 miles away that you're fearful is, you know, similar enough that it's going to be taking clients from you, is to really think differently about competition. Most times, by the way, competition actually elevates your ability to grow. Why? Because you're reaching more people just by way of them being nearby or of a similar business type. They're bringing more notoriety and interest to whatever it is that you offer. But then if you have a truly better product or service, the truth of the matter is, being uniquely excellent, this is where you shine, because someone may be interested in a category, right, of a need that needs to be met. But when they don't get that from your competitor and they continue to look and find you, this is where you shine. And this is where you'll be able to not just acquire that client, but convert them into a more meaningful and long-term lifetime value. So that brings both a better community, but also, of course, better financials to your business. So you can see that there is an element of keeping up with the Joneses that's appropriate. It's just not usually what we think about, which is if your competitor invests $250,000 in new floors, you may not need to do that too. But instead, if you see an area in which they're bringing a lot of attention to the table and you know you're better and you know that you're unique, be bold, be proud, and be strategic about how you share that so that more and more clients will see the difference and easily convert and become your client for life. So we live in this really interesting world right now where it's mergers, consolidation, you know, buyouts and acquisition, and IPOs, right? That seems to be the dream for most businesses. And you're probably thinking, gosh, I don't want to give up equity in my company. I don't want to grow at the same kind of type or measure as some Silicon Valley startup. And I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I encourage you to continue to stay boutique, focused on your community that you serve and who's ideal. And also that you have a measure of success for the future that makes sense. And it's probably not mergers, consolidation, acquisition, and IPO buyouts. So instead, maybe it's another location. Maybe it's really doubling down on your interest and effort to be digital. Or maybe it's finding some way to make even more money in the businesses that you currently own. Hey, to be honest, I've seen all of those scenarios work out very well with the right intention, with the right strategy, and of course, the right investment and resources. So you don't have to be the next business in the graveyard of mergers, acquisitions, IPOs, buyouts, and consolidation. Instead, you can do exactly what you're doing now. Maybe be a locally driven or digitally focused business that knows the ideal client that they want to reach. Invest in finding more of those and convert them so that you have a thriving business that you can add services, products, and additional offerings and be much more sustainable and independent. And that is really my goal for you. So I'd love to hear maybe what are those things that you're planning on doing, especially if you're not into mergers, buyouts, consolidation, and IPOs. I would love to hear what your dream next step is. And honestly, I'd love to give you some advice to help you to get there. Let's talk more about this soon.